I liked when I would watch dinosaur shows and they would like show the graph of all the time of like the dinosaur era and even the pre-dinosaur era, and then it would like zoom in and show like the human era, not even like when we started doing, but just like when we evolved out of
when we were
whatever
biologically
fusion
human.
of different like the Neanderthals or whatever, and it was like just the teeniest little speck of humans there, and it made me feel like almost deprived in a way where I was like, wow, all the times to live and no dinosaurs.
But then humans have been biologically around for what to me feels like a long time. I don't know, 200,000 years. I'm making that up. But we've only been interesting for like 3,000. Prior to that,
maybe.
Well, no,
maybe we forgot. Maybe it all got washed away and reset.
Yes. I want to find evidence for those theories so much. And it's not that it's not out there to anyone who's going to like link me a bunch of stuff. I just haven't done my due diligence. But like the idea of ancient civilizations that were advanced is so fucking cool.
It's my favorite topic. It's my favorite fantasy. There's a sci-fi story written by Arthur C. Clarke that is very similar to what we're talking about. It's called The Star. It's a short story. So anybody who doesn't want the spoilers, go read it right now and then come back. I promise it's worth it. It's a very good short story and it's short. But the premise is, in the future, a team of astronauts, including a Jesuit priest, go to this star. Yeah, he's along the way. It's still happening. It's written in the 60s or something, Arthur C. Clarke. So they go to this faraway star. It's like 2,000 light years away or something like that. And this star had supernovaed, and all of the planets had been destroyed. But on the Pluto-like planet in this star system, the furthest out, that one had survived. And on that planet, they discover a vault. And inside that vault, they find the evidence of a vast culture, an advanced, beautiful culture with art and music and all the trappings of an advanced, beautiful, idyllic, utopic, futuristic civilization. The dream come true. It existed here. And it turns out that is the star 2,000 years ago that marked the birth of Jesus Christ. God snuffed that one out with a snap of his fingers just to put a little marker there above when Christ was sent forward. And that's what's shaking the Jesuit priest's faith, that God has so little regard for not just one life or two, but for this entire civilization that existed here, that just for that, he snuffed them out with a snap of his fingers. Good story.
Interesting. I'll need to read that.
I think it's called The Star.
It's interesting that he's a Jesuit priest.
Yeah.
Or pastor, whatever.
I don't know. Maybe Arthur C. Clarke was a Catholic, or maybe he didn't like them or something.
Could be. Yeah, I want to learn more about space. But really, I want to learn more about potential ancient civilizations, because that's neat. I've seen the like overhead graphs where it shows like how the Giza pyramids are aligned with the stars in like a very hyper specific way that like Copper Age people wouldn't have been able to like fully know, much less like carve a bunch of stones with copper. Like there's YouTube videos of people now being like, they used copper chisels, and then they like hammer a copper chisel and it like falls apart immediately.
They don't know exactly
we don't.
I watched the whole thing about the copper versus iron thing is very interesting because they had bronze and copper, and like I've seen the comparisons between the steel of the day or the iron of the day. They didn't necessarily have steel. The Hittites were the first ones bringing those iron swords against the Egyptians at the time, I believe, and they had, some historians will call it early steel, but if they did, it was incidental in their forming of iron swords.
Pig iron.
But meanwhile, like in Egypt, they could forge those copper or bronze swords, whatever they were. You just pour it. And when you pour something, you can make it very intricate. You can have lots of inlay to make it lighter. And depending on the composition, it would have been comparable to the
No, you're right.
blade.
That's why Bronze Age lasted so long in so many areas, because it's infinitely easier to cast something. Like casting is always easier than forging. Yeah,
it's the skill involved and the need for, like, you often hear it in fantasy. Every forge in the country is burning overtime to build the swords for the fires of industry, etc., because it would require that. They didn't have that centralized, industrialized workforce to just make swords, but because you need craftsmen like blacksmiths doing one-offs. But when you're forging, when you're casting, You just need some dummy. The hard part was made when they built the cast. Now some dummy can just pour and shift and snap the pieces apart. It's like Legos now.
Yeah. What is if you have a theory on like the pyramids or what I was going to say about like the pyramid, like apparently there's some South American pyramids that are aligned the same way as the Giza pyramids in regard to like reflecting the stars position.
Yeah.
And it's so cool. Like,
it seems like,
it's cool to think that there were advanced civilizations way before that we just know nothing about. And it would almost play into like the cyclical nature of humanity, even in our short time frame of like, we become hyper advanced, we get something cool, we destroy ourselves, or the technology destroys itself, and then
answer for the
rebuild.
Fermi paradox as well.
I think what they had going on.
What is Fermi paradox?
It's why there aren't aliens everywhere. That's the question. Where are they?
The question is, hey, the universe is old enough that there should be lots of alien civilizations around. Why aren't we seeing them? So there must be some great filter. Is the civilization killing itself? Does the civilization decide to go dark and not communicate with other civilizations? Like, is it that it's just extremely uncommon for 2 amino acids to bang and make a cell, or however that happens? And
start with RNA. I did a little research on that, and I didn't learn anything.
I feel you.
They're like, no, the RNA first. And I'm like, okay, noted.
RNA, first of all, learn to spell. It's DNA. And
yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. I'm completely misunderstood.
Don't make me correct
no
you
idea what
once
again. I was thinking. No, but I think that when they look at some of the big constructions from ancient civilizations, even like Stonehenge and stuff like that, that's just rocks stuck up. They had a purpose, right? They're calendars that they were using to calculate the seasons, and in conjunction with, and that was important for crop harvesting, for animal migration, and for like older ceremonies and rituals that they would do that probably date back to a time when man didn't understand winter and summer, and so they sort of created these mythos where winter was the bad guy was coming in the winter, and to drive him away, we need to like sacrifice this guy here, or we need to burn this, or do this dance, or say these prayers. And wouldn't you know it, tomorrow is going to have a little more time in it, because the wobble of the earth's different, the seasons are changing, and the days are going to get longer and longer, and then they get warm again. And being able to predict that would have been important for any number of reasons, not just for your crops and everything, but maybe like we see in Apocalypto, how the priest who was an amateur astronomer utilizing the technology that they had was able to predict a solar eclipse. And they were able to leverage his knowledge of a coming solar eclipse, his understanding of what one was, or at least that one came and went free of the will of man. He was able to leverage that into manipulating the whole society, into saying, tomorrow the god will take away your son, but our God King, he will drive the sun back. He will bring it back for you. And like just telling people that, and then it happens tomorrow. Who's going to argue against that when you're just a citizen of this?
Nobody. You will have just seen it.
You just saw the gods take away the sun, and your king say, fuck you, bring it back. And maybe he had to sacrifice 10 guys and roll their heads to make it happen. But holy shit, the sun was gone for a minute. Did y'all see that? It got cold. You don't think it was going to get colder? It was going to turn to the Everwinter or whatever their fucking mythos was. So I think that happened a lot everywhere, that everybody who figured out any bit of astronomy, that led to some basic math, and that led to a structure of control that gave them an underclass that they could utilize to build better monuments to those systems of control. And when they look at like South America, they see the remnants in the jungle of huge cities. I think what happened is those early explorers just wiped out tens of millions of people and whole civilizations that we never got to even hook up with in the Amazon.
I thought those ancient civilizations, like the giant ones you're talking about, way predated like Mayans, Aztecs, Spanish conquistadors. Like this was way older stuff, but not that I know of. The stuff I know about is the Mayans and the Aztecs. And then I was watching something today about a North American equivalent. Yeah, the Incas, the North American equivalent in the southwestern part of North Incas
America.
Were Central America.
The Anastasi and all those groups are in the Southwest. They had vast empires, but it's the building of the the monolithic structures that's interesting. I don't think there were any ancient civilizations that had computers or fucking iPhones or even electricity or even steam power outside of toys that the Romans had that were powered by steam. But I do think that they had like a system where like one of the important things that you need is you need an abundance of food, a surplus of food, so that you can have some people who are just provided for to learn how to do the other things, to get your society cooking and like learning new things.
Specialization.
Specialization. And I think that happened time and time again. There's that site in Turkey whose name is very difficult to pronounce. I think it's Göbekli Tepe. That's it.
Not really
Göbekli Tepe. And I heard recently
what was every once in a while, Woody, I try and remember the fake Pokemon you did on our trivia game. Do you remember it? Because it killed me. It was so funny. But anyway, sorry, Kyle. Back to
that's it. It's just like I do think that those ancient civilizations existed and that they were advanced, but the advanced part was like, maybe they had a system of government with, I believe the Neanderthals, I think there's evidence that they found that the Neanderthals had basic art and stuff. They're wearing jewelry that had been, carved and designed and built. Like that's a pretty advanced group of people. I think when you're painting and crafting things, and that you also see them with wounds that have healed that couldn't have been, they were unsurvivable injuries if you were not cared for. They see people from those old times, 100,000 years old bodies that have clearly elders that have been looked after. They found genetic evidence in the burial tombs in the Southwest of a line of that runs down the female line of 6-toed people who were clearly the leaders of this tribe in the Southwest. You could tell that it went down the line. They all had a common female ancestor, not male. And there were like maybe 6 of them. But I'm probably thinking 6 because they all had 6 toes. They all had 6 toes. And clearly they had made like the 6-toed woman their priestess a long time ago. And then she had an empire that ran for 6 ancient generations. How long is that?
What if a long time from now they talk about
years?
Blue-blooded royalty along, in the same way?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There was, I guess you guys know, there was a royal family that had blue skin as kind of a genetic abnormality. And because they inbred so much, it lasted a long time.
Oh, I thought blue blood meant that like you were so untouched by manual labor in the sun that like your veins still looked like the...
So, as a third-party outsider to both of your wacky theories, I will say that I would support Taylor's theory over Woody's because I do not believe any human has ever bled blue, and I don't think.
So to be clear, it's blue skin tone as a genetic abnormality, not blue blood.
It's usually silver poisoning.
My research in trying to prove myself right is that it was a family in Kentucky, not royal. Like I said, I'm looking for. Am I right?
The Kentucky Blue Bloods.
The Kentucky Blue Bloods. Owners of the largest silver mine.
No, it'd be some old lady selling colloidal silver on Etsy.
See, this is where
everyone.
We can determine, maybe Grok is lying to me. The term blue blood originates from the Spanish phrase sangre azul, which is used by medieval nobility in Spain to distinguish themselves from common people. The idea was tied to their pale skin, through which their veins appeared blue, suggesting purity of lineage untainted by Moorish or other non-noble blood during the Reconquista.
Ooh. You don't want that Moorish blood in you.
So that's from AI?
That's from AI, yeah.
Because there's a Reddit title of a post that is word for word. Like, it was like you were reading it to me.
Yeah, I bet it just... See, that's the risk with using this shit. Is just
wait a minute, chicken and the egg.
Retard.
Chicken and the egg, though. Like maybe the original was a doctor that should be cited somewhere, but it just... Grok read that, and then so did your Redditor. He just copy pasted it.
Yeah.
That sounds fucking good to me. I don't think Grok could just made that up out of whole cloth.